James, I want to talk to you about Liverpool. I want to talk to you about 10th place Liverpool. 8 games, right? They've still, they've got a game to play, which let's say they win it. I know it's a dangerous game to consider games in hand as one games, right? We know how tough this league is. But if they win that game, it takes them up to 13 points, which puts them just ahead of Bournemouth, and they'd be in 8th position in the table. We've just seen the loss to Arsenal. We know about the other loss
as I predicted.
Yeah, as you did predict, and I didn't get that correct either. That's a good point. Jurgen Klopp's recently come out and said that they're not going to win the league. He's ruled them out of winning the league. I want to kind of open this up though to a broader point. I'm pretty sure you must have seen this during the game as well. It's the 18th oldest average age squad in the Premier League at the moment, playing Arsenal, who were second youngest, right? So really good things for Arsenal in terms of going into the future as well. But for Liverpool, this is something, James, you and I have talked about for a while. A lot of these big name players, right? These kind of stalwarts of the last couple of years, they're getting older. And James, I don't want to open up the kind of Pandora's box of the Champions League. And is it worth it to only have one Champions League? Because I'm sure you would say yes. But if we just stick to the Premier League, the Jurgen Klopp era Liverpool team won Premier League title. Is that an underachievement? Because I'm gonna sit here and tell you that yes, I think it is. They played at the same time as Pep, and I understand that. And that's a special team and a special guy and a special amount of money that's been invested to get him where he wants to be. But one Premier League title for this team, for prime Mo Salah, for Mane, for Firmino, for Trent, for Robertson, for Van Dijk, for this team, to me is an underachievement. Your thoughts?
I can understand where like you're coming from there, but the biggest asterisk you can say to that is, Jack, they live in an era, they play in an era where a team of Manchester City's ilk play, and unfortunately, like 90-something points, 95 points, sometimes 97 points ain't good enough. I get it, Manchester City have been unbelievable, but there's also, look at it from the point of view of injuries, all them types of stuff came into consideration there, but have they underachieved basing it on the high standard that they've set? They'll say yes to a certain point. I feel like the season that they won it, the season after that, I do understand there was a lot of injuries there, but they probably would have felt if it wasn't for the injuries that they could have been a repeat of a Premier League title in there, but it wasn't meant to be for them, and Manchester City is just taking over.
I feel like as well, James, going forward, I've bemoaned the Mo Salah contract extension, and I think already we're seeing that probably wasn't the smartest move ever, right? I think that they do need to move on from some of these older players. Now, I know that's difficult to do, and I don't know what the market looks like in terms of players coming in for these guys, but there's got to be a market for Mohamed Salah. We already saw there was a market for Sadio Mane. There's got to be a market for Thiago, for Jordan Henderson, for Van Dijk, for some of these older guys who are not going to win the league this year, definitely not going to win the league next year, and definitely not going to win the league a year after next. There needs to be a new blood for this team. Harvey Elliott's come in, Luis Diaz has come in, Darwin Nunez, okay, fine, Trent's still young, Ibrahima Konate's still there, right? I'm just wondering what the level of turnover needs to be for this squad to challenge with Manchester City. Or, James, my real opinion, a lot of these other teams are just going to have to wait for Pep Guardiola to leave. I do believe that. I do, seriously. And I know you may think, and we'll get onto this in another video with Arsenal, right, about maybe they can push them to it, right? Maybe they can get it. But a lot of these teams, I think you're waiting for the guy to leave before you want to have a shot. Because, James, did Liverpool put £1 billion over the next 5 transfer windows into this Liverpool team just to come second to Manchester City, Erling Haaland and Pep Guardiola?
Jack, the Pep thing is a true thing. I said that a few days ago, just sitting there thinking, man, we could do it. Talking about Arsenal, just Pep's in the way. And this Manchester City team is irresistible when he's there, because a guy who just has a focus like him and is never going to let his team standards drop, it's
Right.
quite tough. But you mentioned like the turnover with Liverpool. I feel Liverpool have tried to turnover, but not fully done it yet, or like fully committed to doing
Dip
it.
their toe in a bit. Yeah.
That's what that's what I'm saying. Because you look at it, Darwin Nunez is is new. Luis Diaz is new. Thiago Alcantara came in like 2-3 seasons ago. There have been certain things that have changed there, but maybe they have to look at it from other perspective. Like for instance, the fullback area, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Trent's having a tough time, and he doesn't really have nobody to like threaten his place or anything like that.
No.
You know, let's be truthfully honest, week in and week out, he's costing Liverpool goals, giving away goals, making poor defensive decisions. But he can look over his shoulder. In England, he knows that there's Kyle Walker there, there's Reece James there. There's no, and he knows he has no chance. But could you imagine if he loses his place in his Liverpool team? But at this moment in time, he can't, Jack.
No.
Why? Because there's no one there to really challenge him.
No.
You know, for me, I look at Liverpool right now is that when Liverpool were successful, were at their absolute best, and sometimes things need to change. But you mentioned Mo Salah. This is the first time I felt that, okay, Mo Salah's changed because of what's going on with Liverpool. Luis Diaz signing, I'm not going to say it's been a detriment to Mo Salah, but you can see that his role as a Liverpool player has changed big time. You know, Jack, there is a difference between playing. You know, but to me, there's two things when I look at Mo Salah. There's a difference between playing in between the fullback and center back and being the highest, being the highest attacking player to being a player who's on the touchline. And watching him against Arsenal, he was a touchline winger. Right. I'm not saying that he's uncomfortable there, but you can see he's more comfortable when he's asked to make runs in behind instead of constantly going at fullbacks. I then look at the problem with Trent, and this is the first time in probably ever since he's been at Liverpool where he's been told, listen, our boy Trent's having a hard time. Can you track back? Usually, Mo Salah can cheat. You know, he can stay up there. He can know that Henderson's going to cover. But because Liverpool sometimes get overrun in the middle, Henderson can't go over there.
Right.
And we're asking Mo Salah to come back. And that's taken a bit out of his game because Liverpool's first option was as soon as the ball is won, it was a ball over to Mo Salah. It was a ball over to Sadio Mane. It was a quick transition. And now, maybe because them yards have dropped, he's now 10, 20 yards further back. That affects what's going on with him.
And James, I'll be honest, like even getting Mo Salah to come back and try and help him defensively, the defending for that Saka final goal. I mean, my goodness, there's some real problems there, real major problems. It's funny, the similarity as well with kind of what Spurs are doing at the moment with what Liverpool had before, right? Because you had Roberto Firmino kind of come back, link midfield and attack. Then you had Mane and Salah going into those, central roles. There was that heat map from multiple years at Liverpool. Mo Salah is the most central, most further forward football player on that team. Darwin Núñez occupies that space. He can do that. He can run channels. He can do this. Luis Diaz is not the same player as Sadio Mane. It's a different style. And, I think you and I even talked about this before the season started. We're going to see a different Liverpool this year. And it's not going to benefit Mo Salah. Mo Salah was the perfect person to fulfill that role that he was perfectly suited to in that Jurgen Klopp team. This is why my criticism of Mo Salah historically has always been, it's handcrafted, custom-made role for him to have had the success that he's had over the years. The moment he has to do something a little out of character or a little out of his comfort zone, we don't see the same level of performances from the same player. And I think my worry is, James, especially with that contract extension for a lot of money, I wonder if they've kind of dug their heels in a little bit for their Liverpool team. And I don't know what the focus needs to be for the next 5 years for these other top six teams, James. Seriously, because like we've talked, my laptop is slowly falling off this stand I got it on. But these teams, the other Manchester club, the three London teams, Liverpool, they're in this tough spot where how much you have to thread that needle because you want to make top four, but you're never going to be able to spend enough money to be able to beat Pep Guardiola, Erling Haaland, Kevin De Bruyne, João Cancelo, and the names go on, right? And James, there's going to be more recruitment soon as well for Man City. That's the other thing. And these other players are going to come in and they're going to be given the same training. It's going to be the same culture and they're going to be playing with the same players. So it's impossible. What you have to do, you have to be good enough to make top four, but not overspend because you're not going to beat Pep Guardiola and Man City.
Do you know what? There's a few things that we also we also forgot to mention the fact that Liverpool have always just been able to sign players underneath the radar that no one's in a big rough to get. Let's
Right.
be truthfully honest. Like Thiago Alcantara was the one player that was everyone knew about, but not everybody was gunning to get like that.
Right.
Darwin Núñez, yes, Manchester United were linked with him, but it wasn't this big hope. Get this guy, Luis Diaz. Liverpool are now in a state that okay, we really have to get our foot down. And I'm hearing this notion about Jude Bellingham there. Liverpool are going to be in a battle to sign a player like that. And I don't think it's in Liverpool's character to match others to get the guy. So I feel like that's going to be a big thing there. And like maybe to a certain point, has Liverpool status kind of dropped from signing point of view? These, like, Diego Jota, when they signed him, I didn't think much of him. I didn't know that he was going to be that.
No.
You know, Luis Diaz, we've seen glimpses of him, but I didn't know he was that good of a player. You know, and the list goes on. Andy Robertson. Can Liverpool keep on going back to the well and doing the exact same thing and making these signings to a certain point?
And James, how long's Klopp got? Like, he loves Liverpool. I know that. He'll be remembered forever. It's a European champion, this domestic cup, a domestic league winner for how God knows how many years, right? Guy's gonna be remembered. Maybe there'll be a statue of him in however long, right? But similar to Pep, these guys have been here a long time. Now, there's no reason to leave. I don't see the reason to leave apart from just fancy a bit of a change, fancy a bit of sabbatical, take a year off, reevaluate your options, spend time with family. But the moment that goes, James, that draw you're talking about goes way more. Who's the next guy going in at Liverpool? I think Man City will have a succession plan. I don't think Liverpool are the type of football club to have a succession plan after Jurgen Klopp.
Jack, I agree with you, but no matter what, Jurgen Klopp is in a win-win situation with Liverpool fans. Because things go bad here. The first thing that Liverpool fans are going to point to is FSG. You didn't back him enough. You know, we sat in the transfer.
Moneyball.
Jack, when you look at it, coming to the end of the transfer window, where you could clearly see Liverpool needed a midfielder, it took a few injuries and then just an emergency panic buy of Arthur. So they can clearly see that Klopp isn't really getting what they want. So no matter what goes on with Klopp, which I don't listen, Klopp could get, I wouldn't say relegated, but Liverpool can finish in the bottom half. What he's done for Liverpool has been incredible. So nothing can really change for him.
Right.
But even if there's a bad switch, Liverpool fans won't point the finger at Klopp, which they shouldn't have, which they shouldn't do. He's been fantastic. He's done gold with just copper.
Right.
To be fair, but he won't get the blame. It's going to be FSG, which is definitely, to me, understandable.
Yeah, look, I'm with you. I think it's a scary time for Liverpool fans, but what I will say is, in recent history, you're Premier League champions. There's domestic cups. There is domestic cups, right? Did they win an FA Cup or a League Cup? I feel like they got
yes.
one.
So they won the League Cup and FA Cup last season.
Yeah, right. So you got domestic cups, you got domestic titles, domestic leagues. Excuse me. You got European, cups, and man, there are fan bases. I live with an Aston Villa fan, and he was telling me he'd be a way bigger fan of Aston Villa, way more devoted fan if his team were challenging for top four and titles and whatnot. So listen, Liverpool fans, you've been blessed, but I'm telling you, you're in for potentially a bit of a bumpy ride here. And I think it's not just Liverpool, but we'll see with Arsenal, and we'll get onto this topic in a couple of minutes here, James. But with all these teams, my opinion, you've got to thread this needle. Because this Man City team, the table may not show it right now, but I think over the course of 38 games here, there's going to be a consistency to this one team this year, the year after, the year after, the year after, the year after, where you just have to wait out Pep Guardiola and Erling Haaland. Guys, let us know what you think in the comments section. Drop a like on the video if you like what you've seen. Let us know in the comments as well. Like, James and I have obviously given our opinions on Liverpool here for now, for the medium term and for the long term. You may disagree. Let us know while you're down there. Check if you subscribed as well. We are on the road to 1,000, gearing up for the World Cup too. Very excited for that. James, anything else from you, mate?
Guys, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you next time.